there I was, December 2006, going through Tom Cotter. I didn't even know who Tom Cotter was. And I saw a picture of the Moon Transporter. I'm Jeff Hacker from Undiscovered Classics. Today is Sunday, March 10th, 2024, which is 18 years, a little more than 18 years when we started, I think about 18 years when we started our quest, which we didn't know would be a quest on the path to documenting handcrafted cars and hand-built across America. Some overseas, but mostly across America. And one of the very first cars I just found before was a 25-year quest of our hardtop Shark. The hardtop Shark was built by Gene Winfield back in the day, and it was built on a Porsche 356. And I said, my God, if only we could find the perfect transporter. I opened up the Tom Cotter book, and there was the perfect transporter, the Moon Transporter. Ultimately, the person who had it was Jim Degman. Tom Cotter for me. My first barn find, oddly enough, was actually in the barn find book, and I've talked about that more than once. So I've been on to be in many barn find books because if you could do an overview, take a look at the cars. This is the new Forgotten Fiberglass Farms. Shoot the cars. Can you go high? Over. What's funny is, this isn't a place where they come to die. This is a place where they come to live. We've had so many cars go from here to Pebble Beach, even more from here to the islands. Many of our cars, I think over half of them that are done from our group down here are in museums today. And we're heading that way each year, which is a great, not so much a testimony to us as much as a testimony to the people and the vision they had in designing and building these cars. So Mike probably wanted less information than about the Moon Transporter, but you can't see the Moon Transporter without taking a look at our newly revamped fiberglass farms out here in an undisclosed location, which no one will find out unless you go on the internet and search for it. So this is the Moon Transporter. I did find it back on that snowy Florida day, Sunday of 2006. And I had just acquired, it was quite a, Rick DeLuey and I, Rick was a great cheerleader and a great partner, but he was the first person I started Undiscovered Classics with. Mike Puma and I are driving force now with a whole bunch of fantastic folks that are supporting Cassie. You see it, Amelia and others. So when we started, I remember I found my hardtop Shark. I think it was 2005. I brought it to Florida 2006, and we found this. And by December 2006, there are pictures up on the website of Rick and I standing next to this in my driveway. I think along with the Grantham Stardust was next to it, and a Victress by then. We've never been bashful about saving cars. We've never been bashful about taking on restoration projects, and we've never been bashful about finishing them either. Either the ones we've done ourselves, ones we've helped with other people do. Sometimes we've just inspired them, or sometimes just the relentless phone calls that I do checking up on the restorations. So 1959, Norm Holtkamp had a dream to build a transporter for America that was based on the Mercedes Transporter that Mercedes had in the mid-50s. I think they stopped using it around 54, 55 with that terrible Le Mans crash. And he wanted to build it. The Blue Wonder was the Mercedes one. He wanted to build one custom built in California by his friends who were Troutman and Barnes. They're the actual ones who built this. And a young and up-and-coming designer who worked with Pixar later on and others who helped out the magazine, a caricature artist called Dave Deal. Dave was a great friend and a person I had the honor of knowing for several years before his passing about 10 years ago. So Dave designed it, and he told me, I said, well, use Corvair lights in the front. Corvairs in 1959 were the hot pony cars that were to turn into Mustangs and other kinds of mid-sized, fast cars of the era. But why did they build the Transporter? This was a car, they used it actually in the 60s, throughout the 60s, to transport cars, and some very famous ones. But the Transporter was built and designed by Norm Holtkamp. Norm was in the 40s, a famous and well-respected and successful board track racer. What's a board track racer? They didn't race boards. Board track racer or a midget racer on a oval race course. And it was all outlined in boards. I mean, not outlined, but all the flooring was all boards. I just call them 2x4s. I'm sure it was something different. So board track racing was on board, and they were fast cars. Very successful guy. It's on the covers of many magazines, and we're in the process working with the family to get a lot of that documentation as to how he performed each year. Mostly in the late 40s, some in the early 50s. Pacific West Coast News, something like that. We've been going through and got original pictures of what he accomplished. So in the 40s and early 50s, he was a racer. In the 50s, mid 50s and late 50s and beyond, he opened up a Porsche and foreign sports car repair service. And that's where we have a lot of photos of his taken also that we get fired from Jim back into the Holtkamp Transporter. And he had this built during this time, but he was well known for his racing mechanics, sports car mechanics in Long Beach, somewhere in the Los Angeles area. And because of that, he wanted to, he was right in the mix. He knew about the Mercedes Transporter. In fact, the Mercedes, this particular Transporter is built on a Mercedes chassis. My friends over in Europe said for years they thought this was the original Blue Wonder, repurposed as the Moon Transporter, but that's not true. The original Blue Wonder, which does not exist in original form today, but the original one was destroyed, I think, in 1967. Interestingly enough, it actually came and toured America before it was destroyed. It was actually at the Ford Dearborn, Greenwich, what do we call that place up there? It was in Sports Cars and Review, and there's pictures of it there and articles about it. Not a lot of articles back in the day. For the Blue Wonder but this car, on the other hand, had articles all over the place in the early 60s. It was called the Cheetah Transporter. The Cheetah Transporter, late 50s and early 60s, and also is known today as the Holtkamp Transporter. You can buy a model of this today. A lot of the hand-built American cars are more famous in Europe than they are in America right now. We're trying to fix that, Mike Poo and I, and the rest of Mike Rang. But the Holtkamp Transporter is what it's called back in Europe, or Norm Holtkamp. Cheetah Transporter, Holtkamp Transporter, and then Dean Moon acquired it in the early 70s, and it's probably more famous now, known as the Moon Transporter, after Dean Moon had bought the car, started to work on it. He actually created the suspension. Enormous brakes. You can take a look at it down here. See some of the calipers, and he redid the spindles as well. We may or may not put it back to that shape. Earhart Hearst, I think something Hearst. I haven't read about the history. Too many cars. So history gets melded to me. So Dean Moon bought it. He had press releases on the car. We've got pictures of it at Dean Moon shop. And Sergey and Chico, folks who own and run the Moon Eyes out in Santa Cruz Springs, have been super helpful. We made additional pictures available from their collection. Not only that, they've got fantastic collections. Dean Moon is on the cover of Car and Driver, and it was in a number of different magazines. Some of its most notable accomplishments, I think so. It's Jim Hall's first Chaparral 1. We've got pictures of the Chaparral 1 at Riverside Raceway. Chaparral's one maiden voyage was taken on the back of the Transporter. But more interestingly, I think it was Dennis Kazmarowski said, "Hey, look what Carroll Shelby had." It was a book on all the Shelby history, and the very first Shelby race car, sports car in America was actually not the race car from the 50s and so forth. What we call is the Cobra. The very first Cobra in America was transported from wherever it was to his shop nearby on the Moon Transporter. We're looking for pictures of it. That's in the book and documented. Auto Week or Competition Press, he advertised it for sale. He had already done this change. Why would he make this change? Because it doesn't look like it. He took off all the aluminum. Sadly, the aluminum he took off is not available. But he actually lengthened the car. Because originally, if you take a look at any vintage pictures, the wheelbase is about 14, 15 inches shorter. Overall length is the same of the car. He actually cut off the end there. It used to be a little more streaming, but it was the same length. The length of it, but what he did was he lengthened the wheelbase and added length here and then cut off the tail. Same overall length of the car. But he did that because what was happening, even though he has two 50-gallon water tanks, right back here, is when it was empty, the car would do reverse wheelies when you come up in Los Angeles off of Mulholland Drive or some of those other, it's a little bit hilly at times. You hit the brakes and the back end would go up. So we put 250-gallon tanks in, which existed until about 20 years ago. Hopefully going to start the restoration here soon. Inside, you'll see a Corvette steering wheel. Also, originally, the car was a stick shift. And Jim Debbie told me he moved it over to an automatic transmission, but we pulled that out. Don't know if we'll go back to a stick shift or not. Probably not. He originally was built with a Corvette 283 high power, and he did it with that. So that I think that Blue Wonder says 102 miles an hour, 103. The Blue Wonder was built so that it could go as fast as possible on German roads and European roads. As a non-articulating truck, it could go as fast as a car. So if you went over a certain length in Europe, then you had to actually abide by different rules, just like trucks have a lower speed on the interstates than cars do, at least they used to. So in this case, Norm wanted to build a competing transporter, had visions of racing one transporter against the other, because both were designed, well, particularly the Blue Wonder. The Blue Wonder Mercedes transporter was designed to get from their home base to a racetrack in a jam when something happened to one of the race cars at the track, maybe on practice or warm up or something on a Friday or Saturday. So it could speed one of the cars, and I think it was a Mercedes SLR, to the race. But again, that was built about 54, and they stopped racing nearly that same year or the very same year or the next. So Norm wanted to build a transporter that was not just as fast as the Blue Wonder, but faster. And he put a 283 Corvette engine in, and there's pictures of that. And we recently found, with the help of Thomas Vohringer, who's the archivist for, I call it Motor Trend or Trend Publications, but it's several different names now. Peterson. Peterson owns the archives now. But we recently found all the original pictures that were taken when the car was done in early 60s. So those I don't think we've shared yet, but those are available too. So you've got a car by 3 different names, a horse by a different color. Actually, out here at the farms, you've got a car with which will return to its original Chevrolet transplant or motive power, and probably an automatic because I'm getting old. I'm 62 almost this year. So at that point, probably automatic might make some more sense. We've got to do something with the braking. I'm not sure if we'll use the Earhart Hurst brakes. We got to use something that will stop it. Of course, we've got to have something that will hold the car down at the back, not just the car at top. But wouldn't the shark look cool on the back of this, zipping up here? Look at this track, though. But Mike, if you actually get right back in the center, it's a very narrow track. So the very first Chaparral was a narrow track. Yeah, I think of that as a stout race car. But you can see there's not very much. That's originally was from here, ramps up like there to there, and they're actually indented here. And you can see I'd love to have the ramps out here, and that's what Norm was doing. Not only did he lengthen the wheelbase, but he was moving the ramps out here. That's why he cut holes in here, and then take bigger cars. I think what makes the most sense is probably to go back to the original configuration. I don't know about the wheelbase or not, but those of you who have some thoughts can comment. And we can share. We've done renderings with Dan Palatnik down in Brazil with long wheelbases, short wheelbases, and it's just very attractive. In this wheelbase, the shorter wheelbase still looks like a topsy-turvy. I don't know. You can help us make the decision as we go forward. Mechanically, restorations will be fine. We're lucky that half of the parts exist and half of them don't. And the ones that don't are big sweeping panels. However, the back of it's going to take a metal artist to help us there. To get the back dialed in, and then just belly pans too. Part of the belly pans are here, but the ones from here forward, including the one that goes under the cab, is missing. I think we have some belly pans over there. If you pan over to some parts, we haven't matched up everything yet, but certainly is never quiet here on Undiscovered Classics. We're bringing in younger people like Mike and Joel, and who else is younger in our group? Joel Driscoll, Mike Puma,
Tim.
Who?
Tim,
Tim Masters is young. That's probably the last time he'll be called Tim.
the Kaiser King.
Yeah, you'll see some Kaiser videos coming up, but Tim and John Phillips, to make sure that there's pathway beyond Jeff and Rick, who's originally started with me, and others. All we did we look inside completely. One time the labels were in there and all these little things. Yeah, you can still see the labels. I'm sure you can read them. They had the little printers that I used to use as a kid. Little printer that would print out different labels. And I think we'd have to look to see back here if this goes forward. Is there still a winch? I don't know. Is it the winch cable? Let's see. Nope, wires. There is a whole. Oh, there. I'm sorry. It's there. There's the whole winch right there. You can see it. And that winch was used to carry to bring the small light cars up the ramps and onto the back. So, those of you faint of heart, nothing worthwhile is easy. Scan this whole back here. We have a track record of about 16 cars restored in the last 18 years or so, and 2 or 3 times that through other folks. Not all these are going to be restored. Pick the best ones in terms of history and all this. And certainly mechanically, it's not. It's going to be more the artistry on the aluminum. But we do have folks. We have 2 folks in our midst who are very good at that and have professional chops for that. So we may bring in someone new. We may use some of the folks we have. One thing at a time. Got to make the wheelbase decision. So it is strange driving, by the way. When we first got it in 2006, Rick and I took it around the block. We might have video on it. Do we have video?
Yep.
And
it's hilarious.
We went around the block. It drove fine, but we got speed bumps in my neighborhood. Can't imagine why. There must be someone in the neighborhood who's continually testing cars at a high speed. I don't know. I've never been able to find the person when I look. So we drive around the neighborhood going over speed bumps, but you're here and the wheel is here. So when you're driving over this thing, you see the speed bump and you're waiting for it to hit, because we're used to wheels being up here, and it doesn't hit until it's back here. And it's like, okay, so all of a sudden you're driving along, it's there, and then you get lifted up, pointed to the sky and down. It's very funny. And interesting, we have 2 more cars like that. Our Ferber is like that. Wheels are ahead of it. And our executive Bucci, if the Ferber isn't, the executive Bucci, the RV is.
The Goujon?
So is the Goujon Streamliner. Those 2. So we've got 2 or 3 cantilevered cars which are ahead of the front axle where you sit in front of the axle.
Speaking about the front here, what's the cab from?
The cab is a 1959 Chevrolet El Camino. 59 is the first year that Chevy came out with the El Camino. Back in 59 and 60, they were full size. When they came out with the El Camino again in the mid 60s, they were mid-size cars. So full size car, El Camino cab. They had to buy. I was talking to one of the roof crew was watching it being built. We always document our interviews and digitize the audio and all that stuff. So it's all there. But in order to get this, they had to buy this. And I guess the El Caminos were being assembled out of Long Beach, somewhere in California. And so they bought the body and the back end. And the first thing they did with the back end was sell it. So this has actually never been an El Camino. It's never been registered as an El Camino. It's brand new from the shop. Luckily, the interior is really easy. All the wonderful stuff is reproduced. So we can put in a brand new Chevrolet interior just like it had before. So all I can point back is nothing worthwhile is easy. And age 62, I still think I've got time to finish the project. We're going to start it soon. So according to Tim Masters, is going to start helping. So this video is making sure that Tim gets down here and starts helping.
Hey guys, Mike and Undiscovered Classics here. Hope you guys are enjoying the video that's queuing up. Just wanted to take a minute and say thanks for subscribing and following the channel. It really means a lot when you guys comment and share our videos. And to that end, a lot of the analytics we're seeing on the back end here in the YouTube Creator Studio is that we've got a lot of people watching videos, but not necessarily a lot subscribing. So I know it's annoying and everybody asks for it, but if you get the chance, subscribe to the channel, like, maybe even share the video, and would love to interact with you in the comments. So appreciate it and enjoy.